I can tell you that Janet Yellen, as you know, is one of the best economists in the world. And you ask her in private, do tariffs work in terms of rectifying imbalances and all that? Economics 101 will tell you it doesn't work.
Yes, that's right. Trade tariffs usually don't work. After US President Joe Biden announced he is going to quadruple the tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles from 25% to 100% to protect the US auto industry, the entire auto industry was shocked. In this video, we will look at why Joe Biden's 100% tariffs on Chinese EVs will not work. But before that, please subscribe to our channel to show your support and so that we can continue to create interesting videos for you. Now let's talk about why the tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles are not going to work. China is the new Japan. We have seen this story before. In the 1970s, the US auto industry faced two major problems: a gas price crisis that made their large gas-guzzling vehicles less competitive, and a steel crisis that hit US steel manufacturers hard. The steel crisis was caused by Japan, whose manufacturing methods were much better than America's. Japan could produce steel cheaper and better than the US, offering prices that American manufacturers couldn't match. As a result, many American steel workers lost their jobs. The US tried to fix the problem with tariffs, accusing Japan of dumping steel at unfairly low prices. But the tariffs didn't stop Japan's advanced steel industry, which stayed strong even after the tariffs. US automakers responded poorly. Instead of making better cars, they made weak attempts to meet standards, lobbied against new regulations, and asked for tariffs on Japanese cars. They wanted an easy win without improving their vehicles. Eventually, Japan agreed to limit their exports, and US automakers started making better cars. However, the disruption in the 1970s helped Japan become one of the top manufacturing countries in the world, especially in the auto industry. They have been the largest auto-exporting country for decades. Does any of this sound familiar? Today, the US and EU are accusing the Chinese for overcapacity and dumping their hugely subsidized electric vehicles to the rest of the world. And in order to protect domestic car market, the US and EU responded with increased trade tariffs. But as we have learned from the Japanese in the past, tariffs do not work. Trade tariffs don't work. Today, China is the largest car market in the world and has also become the largest car exporter, surpassing Japan. China's efforts in EV manufacturing have paid off. Although China was initially slow to adopt EVs, by 2023 it had a massive 37% EV market share, outpacing many early adopter countries. Chinese EV production has grown even faster, with exports rising rapidly in recent years. Why did this happen? Japanese and European industries are acting like the US did in the past, dragging their feet on electric vehicles. Some automakers are even cutting production plans in the fast-growing EV market, possibly to influence regulations, even though it's clear their targets are too low. While Biden has pushed for stronger emissions standards, automakers seem determined to lobby against progress, giving themselves a false sense of security that they can take their time transitioning to EVs. This isn't happening in China. The Chinese government has focused on securing materials and encouraging new EV makers. Chinese EV makers aren't holding back. They're building and selling cars as fast as they can and exporting them quickly, even building their own ships for this purpose. The irony is, if Chinese taxpayers are subsidizing manufacturing before sending those cars overseas, it represents a wealth transfer from Chinese taxpayers to American ones. Another irony, China has been criticized for not doing enough on climate change, and now they're being criticized for doing too much, both with EVs and solar. Blocking out better options won't kick the West's industry into gear. On the contrary, it will make the industry more complacent. Automakers are already begging governments to let them continue their unsustainable business models as competition looms. But that's the thing. Tariffs don't generally work. We saw how they failed to stop Japan, and there are many other examples showing their ineffectiveness. Economists generally agree that tariffs are a poor measure to help domestic industry. On one hand, tariffs could help domestic auto jobs because free trade with Chinese EVs might lead to a race to the bottom for auto manufacturing. Chinese companies might set up manufacturing in the US to avoid tariffs, helping US auto jobs, but this would likely spark controversy. On the other hand, China is likely to retaliate with tariffs that hurt US workers, as happened with soybean tariffs in 2018. The global economy's complexity means major tariffs can cause a lot of chaos. In the end, US jobs likely won't benefit overall, and US consumers will be denied the chance to buy affordable new EVs from China. Raising prices of vehicles that could compete with US autos means inflation will increase. Cars will be more expensive, as US manufacturers will have less competition, less reason to lower costs, and less reason to offer reasonably sized models. People will continue to accuse EVs of being too expensive as a result of policies that directly make them so. The Politic Factor. The tariff increase has a significant short-term factor, the upcoming US election, just a few months away. Increasing EV tariffs seems to be more about politics than what's best for the auto industry or the country. It's a populist move, playing on anti-China sentiment and blaming the US's main geopolitical competitor for various domestic issues. This sentiment is quite popular. US views on China are at record lows, making it an easy target for blame. The sharp decline in recent years has been influenced by loud scapegoating from former President Trump, affecting voters across the political spectrum. So, Biden's decision to increase tariffs on Chinese EVs may end up being popular, regardless of its actual effects, similar to how Trump's previous tariffs hurt the US economy but still found public support. Apart from that, tariffs often backfire. For instance, before the US and EU announced higher tariffs on Chinese EVs, China hinted it could retaliate. Its commerce and foreign ministries both stated that China would take all necessary measures to defend its interests. However, analysts believe the chances of a serious escalation into a full-blown trade war are low, as both sides have too much to lose. In conclusion, imposing higher tariffs is not the best solution. Instead of relying on comforting but ineffective policies, the US, EU, and even the Japanese should commit to the significant industrial shift needed to catch up with China. It won't be easy for automakers because China has been investing in the EV supply chain for over a decade. They secured key materials like cobalt, lithium, and rare earths long before many understood their importance. High trade tariffs to keep the auto industry competitive will not work. They won't help US consumers, likely won't have a net positive effect on US jobs, will lull the industry into a false sense of security, and won't benefit the environment. Do you agree that imposing higher tariffs on Chinese EVs will not work? Share your thoughts and leave your comments below. If you like what you see, hit the like button and subscribe to our channel to show your support.